Hey everyone, how is everyone doing? How are you, Jatin?
Yeah, I'm good, Sonora. How are you?
I'm good as well. So, who do we have today on the call?
So we have Ashutosh, and Ashutosh comes from Pune, India, and he
Oh,
has his expertise on emotional intelligence.
that is
So
brilliant.
Ashutosh, कसा आहे तुम्ही?
हा बस मजेत. सगळ्यात पहिलं मला खूप आनंद होत आहे मराठीत बोलायला. आय थिंक माझं पहिलं एजाईल टॉक असेल मराठीमधनं. सुरुवात मराठीमध्ये होतीये. सो व्हेरी हॅपी आणि मी खूप आय मीन इम्प्रेस्ड आहे की आपण मराठीमध्ये बोलतोय.
बरोबर ना. मी मुंबईचा आहे, तर मग मला मराठी तर थोडा थोडा येतेच. आणि
हा.
तुमचं नाव बी असंच आहे ना, तर मी विचारलो की मराठीमधून कॉन्व्हर्सेशन स्टार्ट करूया.
Hi,
हो नाही, चांगलं आहे.
Ashutosh.
म्हणजे मलाही आवडलं. मलाही खूप आवडलं आपण मराठीमध्ये सुरुवात केली आहे.
Okay, brilliant. I think I didn't get understand, but I think you boys are killing it in Marathi, and I can totally feel the vibe. So I think, and I could totally understand. Jatin is like my Marathi is okay, okay, but Ashutosh, you are like
Yeah,
like the Bap of
exactly.
Marathi.
Well, not really a bap of Marathi, but yeah, it was good for me to start with my mother tongue. I must say that it was good to start this
Yeah,
conversation in the mother tongue.
that is
Absolutely,
brilliant.
absolutely.
So thank you so much, Ashutosh, for joining us today. And I do understand you have some expertise in emotional intelligence, which we will be touching on today. And you're also doing a great job with all the podcast and all the work that you're doing around in agile space. So why don't we start with your introduction? Why don't you talk about yourself? What do you do? And yeah, we'll take it from there.
Sure. Thanks, Sinora, for giving me this opportunity. Uh, well, my name is Ashutosh Bhatawadekar. Have around 21 years of experience in the industry. A civil engineer by education, then did MBA in information technology. My career really started in a traditional world. I mean, in those days, obviously, there was nothing called as an agile. We all used to follow a standard approach of project management. And I went through what every Indian IT professional goes through the journey, right? Started as a developer, then became a module lead, a team lead, a project manager, and a program manager. And in between, also did a couple of PMO consulting roles. And 2008 is where I actually shifted gears. I mean, there was a big career change, I would say, where I got an opportunity to work in an agile way of working. So I joined an organization which was just in the nascent stages of agile implementation, and that was a good opportunity which I captured. And since then, it has been predominantly a journey into an agile way of working, starting as a scrum master, then as a coach, then change agent, transformation agent, and now working as an enterprise agile coach with various clients in driving their transformation. So that's in a nutshell about me. And I'm sure people will know more about me as we take forward this conversation.
Nice, nice, very good. So once again, welcome to the show, our podcast. So
Mhm.
Ashitas, how did you first hit upon emotional intelligence? Like, was it while reading the subject and then you jumped into it, or like, can you tell more about that?
Good question to start with. So I'll tell you, there was an incident which happened in my earlier part of my career. Okay. And the way I handled that incident, obviously, I was not happy with that. I mean, when I reflected upon it, so this was an incident I'm talking about 2001, 2002, roughly around that time frame, where I was working as I would say, as a technical lead in the engagement. I was not a project manager, I was a technical lead. And when I went into an agile world after 2008, when I first heard the word emotional intelligence, I actually could correlate with that incident. So that event happened in my life before I knew that even it is called as emotional intelligence. So that was my first introduction. But in a retrospective, I realized that this is what emotional intelligence is all about. And I can talk about that incident if you're fine with it. I mean, should I go ahead and talk about
Yeah,
that incident?
Sure, please,
yeah,
please go
So,
ahead.
absolutely.
so this incident which I'm talking about, 2001 and 2002, I was working as a developer, more like a technical lead. And I mean, the good old waterfall days, right? Those deadline driven days, we all know that, right? We all dreaded those days where the manager was sitting on top of your head to get things done quickly, right? So there was this problem which had to be solved, okay? And I mean, this problem had got a deadline of around 3 to 4 days. So I remember it was, I think, Tuesday. When I was struggling, I was still struggling. I would have tried almost 3 4 days to crack this problem, and I was unable to solve this problem. And in my team, we had a technical expert. I mean, this person was, I would say, a technical wizard. And I knew that if I approach this person, the problem would be solved within, I would say, minutes. If not within seconds, the problem could get solved within minutes. Now, this person was a very lovable person in the organization. And every day at around 12:30, he used to go with his old group of project team members for lunch. I mean, that was a pattern which I had observed over the days, right, working with this person. And that was the only time he used to get with this affectionate group of people. Okay. And on that day, I very vividly remember that I got really frustrated by 12:15. And I said that now I have to give it up. Okay. Now, this is not in my hand, right? I mean, I need a technical expertise to come in and solve this problem. By the way, the deadline was still far away. Okay. It is not something that I had to solve this problem by Tuesday afternoon or Tuesday evening. So I had dual minds, but I finally reached out to this person. Okay. And I said that, Mr. So-and-so, can you please help me? And he said, yes, why not? I will help you. And he actually started working with me on the problem. Okay. And for him also, surprisingly, it was taking longer time than what he had anticipated, or rather what I had anticipated. And in between, obviously, his friends called him. I mean, in those days, we didn't have much of mobile phones. They called him on his desk. He said, no, I'm busy today. You carry on. In fact, that day, there was a party which was planned. Okay. They had planned for an outing, for some celebration. I think one of their group members had a birthday there. Okay. But this person said, no, my priority is to help Ashutosh to solve this problem. And I didn't realize that. Okay. I was just overhearing this conversation. And I mean, it took almost 1:30 for him to actually come out with a problem approach to that problem statement. The problem was still not solved. Then we went in for lunch, because I was a lazy person. I used to go for lunch at around 1:30. We came back again from lunch, and finally the problem got solved at 3 o'clock. Now, why I'm trying to bring this incident is because later on I realized it was a very important birthday of one of their good friends. And I realized that, you know what, I had actually taken his time for something. I was behaving more like a selfish personality here, trying to solve a problem. And this poor chap actually lost that joyful moment with his daily team members, where he used to go out for lunch with them. And I apologized to him at that point in time. He said, no, that's okay. I mean, that's okay. We can go for parties, always happen. But then I realized that there was something wrong which I had done. And later on, when I heard this term emotional intelligence, I realized that, you know what, this is a blunder in my life I have done, that I should have actually I should have displayed a very strong emotional intelligence on that day, right? I mean, yes, just for my selfish need, I actually asked this person. As I said, the deadline was pretty long ahead. I could have very well waited for this person to come back after his lunch, whatever time he comes, and then asked him to solve it, right? And when I read this word emotional intelligence, that's when I realized the true meaning of it. So as they say, right, real life and real life. In this case, the real life incident happened to me before even I read what emotional intelligence is. But then I realized that what a blunder or a mistake I have done in my life. So this was that incident which actually taught me practically what emotional intelligence is, because at the end of the day, it's about how you react to a situation, how you behave. Just because I am getting agitated, or I am displaying that emotional trigger to solve that problem quickly, I actually ended up ending into someone's personal space and took away that joyful moment from that person's life. I mean, that's how I would describe my journey into emotional intelligence.
That's a beautiful story that you shared, Ashutosh. And it's like every now and then we come across such moments where, we selfishly kind of just take it for granted, maybe, or like we are always in and out of these meetings and these ceremonies that we do, where we expect people to be more professional, but at sometimes we are missing out on the personal and the emotional side of it. So I think that's a brilliant story that you shared there. Yeah. Chetan, you wanted to say something?
Sure. And how did you now take things forward? So now that you realize that, oh, this is emotional intelligence. So then what did you start doing next then? Like, did you started exploring or what?
Yeah, so when I read this topic for the first time, I obviously started reading about it because, see, I think, I think we all are from India, or we have roots in India, although we might be located at different areas. I think we all know, right? I mean, in the Indian education ecosystem, there's a lot of stress on IQ, right? I mean, IQ is where we all tend to measure each ourselves, right? So if my IQ score is higher than my peers, I'm considered or tagged as an intelligent person. But very rarely we talk about the emotional intelligence, although it has been deeply rooted in our culture. It has been deeply rooted in mythology also. So when this word first came to me, I was also very curious. What exactly is this? Because all I know about intelligence is that can I solve a mathematical problem, 2 plus 2 equals to 4. But emotional intelligence is more beyond that. It is more about how as a leader you react to a situation, because come what may be, right? Howsoever best systems you make, there are going to be problems, there are going to be challenges from our customers. But the important thing is how we react to those problems. Am I the person who suddenly barges out of my desk and shouts at my team members when there's an escalation email? Or I remain composed and I first try to understand what is the pain point my customers are facing, and then get my team together and be assertive. See, again, emotional intelligence never says that you have to be that soft-spoken or mild person. But at the same time, don't be aggressive and start shouting at everyone, or don't be that kind of a person who actually makes a mockery of that entire escalation, right? You have to be assertive. You definitely need to be assertive there. So that's what triggered my interest into this subject. I started reading into it. I started observing team members, how my team members are reacting when a situation comes. How is my lead reacting? What are the different, I would say, personalities they are displaying when a particular thing happens? And it also works on the other side, by the way, that there's a good success which happens, and there's a lot of, I would say, excitement, emotional excitement, I put it, right? So there's an emotional sadness when there's an escalation mail or which comes up. But at the same time, the other side of this can also go into a excessive emotional excitement, which also we need to control over a period of time. So that basically generated a lot of curiosity. And there were more such examples which came with me as a project manager, as a agile coach. More such examples like the story which I told in the beginning, they started coming up during my experience. So it was an experiential learning backed up by a theoretical, I would say, literature around it.
Yeah, no, that's definitely, and I think it would definitely touch up upon, like, now that I think about it, now that you're saying all of that, all these things would eventually even lead us into the bigger conversations that we have around inclusions or gender equality. All these are also somewhere, part of how we are emotionally intelligent towards our peers, towards the surrounding, towards within ourselves as well. So I think the emotional intelligence is like an umbrella which covers a lot of major concerns that we have these days with our organizations too. So
True.
yeah. Okay.
And
So
yeah, go ahead, Sinora.
no, go ahead.
So if we start exploring emotional intelligence, so what I understand, we spoke about more on the self-awareness part of it, right?
Correct.
So do you want to add more besides the self-awareness? Do you want to add more of the other dimensions which are there as well?
Yeah, so yeah, I think I know where you're coming from. So you're talking about that classic 2x2 grid, right? Self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and social skills, right? And yes, I mean, self-awareness is definitely the most important one. Self-management also, yes. I mean, I have faced a lot of situations where initially there was that emotional trigger outburst which used to happen. I used to get angry, or I used to get basically very sad to see those kind of emails coming in. But then I said that no, at the end of the day, we have to motivate. I mean, as a leader, I have to be more like a motivator for the team. I should be providing that safety cushion rather than I scoffing at my team for a wrong thing done. Actually, the other thing, the reverse side of it is expected. So I mean, again, an example which I can give earlier, when an escalation mail used to come, it used to be like a panic mode, right? I mean, It's like more like a mayday kind of a signal which used to go into our project teams that come on, come everyone, let's assemble quickly. So even if people are having lunch, they used to actually stop their lunch and immediately come out for that discussion, right? But this was for an European client. So obviously around lunchtime, such events used to happen, right? In India. So we were in India. We were around 3.5, 4 hours ahead of them. And typically around lunchtime, these escalation mails used to come. And then I realized that no, I mean, am I really am I really behaving like a leader here? I mean, why should people leave their lunch and come for this event, for this kind of an escalation, right? Let them have lunch as it is. We can tell them that, okay, we'll have this meeting after lunchtime, right? So self-management, I would say, is something again which I have learned on the ground. So in fact, that entire 4 model, that 2x2 grid model, which is there, I've actually experienced it, and then it was a deja vu when I actually learned about it. So self-management, I would say, also what happened was there was a lot of these trainings which I had undergone as a part of management development program. So it was a training on assertiveness and not being aggressive. It was a training on some, I mean, your communication skills, leadership skills, the critical difference between a leader and a manager. So a lot of that standard literature, standard content of training helped me formulate it. And over the years, I also realized that, see, people work at the end of the day if as a leader, I'm going to help them. Otherwise, people are not going to be motivated. They will follow your orders probably 1 day, 2 days, but one day they will leave you, right? As the famous quote says, right? People leave managers, people don't leave organization. And I think that's what made a big sea change in my outlook towards self-management. So what started happening was that even if that mail came up during the lunchtime, I used to say, okay, let me first read that mail. Let me try to understand the situation at hand. Let me talk with 1 or 2 leads of the team before even I start shouting at the team or before even I start putting a blame on the team member. And we created a culture of, okay, yes, whosoever has done the failure will own it up, even if it is me. And then again, the punishment won't be like a punishment where you're scolding that person, but the punishment will be more about the person telling, okay, how not to repeat this mistake again, or how to avoid this failure again. So I think that was what led to the self-management quadrant of that classic emotional intelligence matrix.
Nice. And Ashutosh, as you mentioned, being a leader, do you think from your experience or from your point of view, is emotional intelligence only connected to leaders or it goes with anybody and everybody?
I would say it goes with everybody. It goes with everybody in the organization, right? From the lowest team member to even the CEO for that matter of the organization. I mean, we have a lot of examples, right? Where we have leaders who have displayed a very strong emotional intelligence across the length and breadth of the organization. So I would say it goes with everyone in the organization.
Yeah, and I think even in the times of COVID, we saw a lot of organization behaving in a lot of different ways, and that really brought out a lot of emotional intelligence part of, like, ways of working, or some people were so erratic in the ways they expected the employees to be. And yeah, and even right now, going back to office is another, I think, emotional intelligence battle that every other organization is having right now. So yeah.
True.
And if we move forward with emotional intelligence, how useful would it be when you start using it or implementing it? As you mentioned earlier, like, everybody wants to look at IQ. Okay, so, oh, you are intelligent or you're smart, but then people fail to know that even emotional intelligence is something which is higher than that as well, right? It doesn't mean that if you're intelligent, you will be successful. But if you're emotionally intelligent, yes, you will definitely be successful. So what way you want to, project EQ or EI for organizations or for people to use it in their
Okay.
organizations?
Yeah, so definitely, I mean, when I talk about it, even in, apart from podcast, I've talked about this topic even in conferences, in meetups and events. I always say that, it is something which has to be a part of the induction manual of every associate. I mean, this is the topic because that's the time when we tell the individual what the organization stands for, right? Or what are the value systems of the organization. And just like we do a kind of a induction, we have a induction pack, right, or an induction manual where we tell them the do's and don'ts, right? I think as an organization and as an organization leadership, they should include this as one of the modules in the induction pack, because, and if they can give a kind of a demonstration of use cases which have happened in the organization in the past, I think that's what is going to make a good amount of difference, I would say. So I would say start early, start with the day the individual gets inducted into the organization, so that that culture is told to the individual. And it's not just about talking it in the induction pack. I think leaders also have to demonstrate it, right? Whenever there's a crisis which happens, like many times we have seen, right? I mean, there could be a conflict in the team, or there could be some issues in the organization, and employees could be facing some issues. And let's say, and this is more pronounced for female associates. We see a lot of these cases coming up, right? I think Sinora mentioned about diversity challenges, POSH, right? I mean, we get into a lot of these issues. And incidentally, I was a part of the POSH committee also. I was nominated as one of the members. Where we did have these issues coming up. And this is where the leadership has to demonstrate the real intent or an action of implementing that on the ground, right? Giving that emotional comfort to the distress associate, right? And I vividly remember an example where a person was he was very emotionally disturbed because of this diversity issue, right? He came from a particular region, and generally the team members were mocking at that person. So this is where the leadership, the project leadership had to intervene and coach the remaining team members, the do's and don'ts. So we in fact had to, and that's where we realized that this has to be brought in the induction pack. It's not just something which is restricted to seminars or event. The real intent of an organization would be, if they bring it in an induction pack, they demonstrate it consistently, and any violations around it, they're dealt firmly and they're communicated to the wider audience. That is how I would put it. I mean, this is more of an action item for an organization to really show its intent of making sure that everyone is emotionally stable in the organization.
And have you implemented, like, because as you put it in the part of the induction, so do people need to go through a training, or would training definitely help, or would just reading about it would help? What do you think, and what do you suggest?
No, I would recommend a training, just like we have other trainings like communication skills, leadership skills, the organization overview, right? This should be a formal training. Again, the duration can be worked upon. And even I would suggest, even for leaders, it has to be more important. Like if I'm joining a particular leadership band in the organization, this has to be an extensive training with the role plays and all implemented into it. But then again, we can decide on the modalities of the training, but definitely it has to be, I would say, anywhere between a half day to a 1 day session, with more on an experiential learning, with more on a use cases or role plays being inbuilt into it. So yes, I mean, I have been a part of teams which recommended what should be the content of these trainings, how these role plays have to be designed. And we had in fact even shot few videos which we showcased about it, right? That what is wrong with the leader here, what is wrong with the person here, and how do you interpret the leader role here. So those kind of would be the, I would say, the artifacts or the deliverables of the training. But yes, it has to be a, I mean, yes, we all know that the world has shifted to an online mode, but pre-pandemic, we had insisted on a physical kind of a classroom training for this kind of a topic.
Yeah, and I think so. I'm intrigued, Ashutosh. So how do you measure it? Like, how would you measure a team or a leader, or how would you assess them? Like, you know, you're like, this is what the emotional intelligence of this teams is currently, and maybe this is where we want to take them. So how do you take them from point 1 to point 2?
Yeah, that's a good question around the measurement part of it. Yeah, I mean, see, if you ask me personally, it has got both the dimensions. It has got a qualitative as well as a quantitative dimension. So quantitative dimensions, obviously, you'll have to create a survey. You'll have to frame few questions specific to the organization and its ecosystem. And then obviously you rank it on a scale of 1 to 5 or a 1 to 10, and then you measure it. Okay, higher the number, the better. But more than that, I would say the qualitative aspect also, how the situation was handled at the ground, how this situation unfolded, right? Is there any bad or a negative publicity for the organization? I think those are also some of the key indicators which come out. I think we all see, right? Without naming any organization here, we all see like how people like to wash their dirty linen in public, right? On the top, I mean, it could be on a personality issues, or it could be on clash of egos. I think that also would be a good measurement criteria that has the, and again, it's not about keeping anything secret. It's about basically making sure that is our leadership capable enough of handling that situation internally. I mean, why is it bubbling up to the external world? Is probably the leadership has failed here to handle that situation. So I would put it, those are the other qualitative dimensions around it. But primarily, there has to be a survey designed. And in fact, when we did it for one of the organizations, we did take a help of our talent development team. I mean, they were a core part of the team which helped us frame this question. We had coaches, we had even life coaches from that team who incidentally were there, who helped us in framing questions around emotional intelligence and what we should be asking, what we should not be asking.
Yeah, that is great. And I think like just recently, like Jatin put it really nicely, the IQ versus the EQ thing. So I think even that is one of the major concerns that we should be addressing, because normally we talk about EQ, but then, you know, everything is performance based. Everything is based on how well you're doing, or how well your relationship is with your client, or, you know, how, like recently I was talking to
Correct.
someone and they mentioned that the organization is telling them how well you're doing, but if you're not coming to office, your performance, like your in the end, everything will matter. So indirectly they're like, you know, playing it that ways for asking people to, pushing people to coming back just immediately, while some people have some ways they are living now, their kids, and there's a lot that going on in people, and people are like, you know, insecure, like they're introverts, then there are people who are not feeling safe yet to come up.
Mhm.
So it's like, how are we managing between IQ and EQ is what I'd say is something that is a great conversation to have with the leaders, with their people managers, and everyone. Yeah.
Nice. And anything you want to add, Ashutosh, so people know that how important EQ is compared to IQ, or how EQ can definitely help them at work?
Mhm. Okay, so I would say that again, coming back to that earlier thing, what I was talking about, right? I mean, yes, I mean, if you focus too much on IQ, people will listen to you, but for only some time. But EQ actually helps you build that relationship. So I have a lot of my people with whom I worked, but right now we are not in the same organization. But because of the strong EQ connect which we established, they still come to me, by the way. They still come to me, and not necessarily only when they're in a problem. They still also share happy moments with me. Something good which has happened in their life. Let's say one of my colleagues who recently, she actually got promoted in a job. So she shared that news with me. I mean, I don't have to refer to LinkedIn because I know she's already connected with me on LinkedIn. But she actually told me first time when she got a promotion, she called me and said that, you know what, I mean, I just want to tell you the first person which came to my mind is you actually. I don't know why, but you came to. And by the time, and she also admitted that even in appraisal, I had given her some improvement points, right? I mean, it was not a great appraisal we had. But because of the strong EQ, that bonding still exists. I mean, it's a bonding for a life, I would say. And you never know, right? Tomorrow, I might be in some dire needs where I could need help from her also. So it basically helps you build that long-lasting relationship which spans across the world workplace. And I'm not saying that every relationship has to be a friendly relationship. In fact, she called me after 2 years now just to share this news with me. But I mean that somewhere in the mind that connect is there, right? I mean, we are still connected. She also knows that if she is in a crisis, she will reach out to me for any guidance or assistance, the same vice versa. So I would put it in this way that from a human development perspective, I mean, yes, people may not stay in the same organization for years together, but it's a good tool also to connect people, to connect like-minded people together, to basically bring about that bonding in this world. I think that's an advantage I would put forward. So yes, I mean, organizations will be definitely restricting their thinking to their employees. But if I look from an outside world, it is one tool which actually helps connect some individual irrespective of the corporate affiliation they have. I think that's another advantage I would say.
Yeah, great. And what is one like, I would want to know, like, what is it that can backfire here? Like, like if you would have implemented in a different organization with different set of leaderships and different kind of like
Hmm.
every organization has its own culture. I feel every
Correct.
organization has its own way of adopting things or resisting things and things like that. So what is that one pushback or one blowback that you got like you experienced or something you want to share?
Okay. Yeah. So one thing is obviously that there is no standard model that, okay, if it works in,
Yeah.
or if it took, let us say, 6 months in organization A, let us say a similar organization B, it will take 6 months. It could take more also. It depends on the
Mm.
kind of culture this organization had. And I mean, we all know about that various color coding, right? Which Frederick Lillox has talked about in reinventing organization. Not all organizations are teal organizations. There are a lot of organizations which also fall in that red zone. So obviously it will take a lot of time, right? And especially if it is a red organization which is heavily derived from power or a dictatorial attitude, right? And probably
Mm.
it may not even work out there. I mean, you might take a call that I'm not fit for this particular organization. So definitely that model is a good reference model, but as such, there is no kind of I mean, yes, you can formulate a series of steps or an action item that this is how, as a coach, you should start implementing it. But then again, it's every coach or a change agent will have to, I would say, tweak that model, or will have to customize that model. And as I said, what could backfire is if the leadership is not really true on its intent. It is just a lip service they're doing. But in the ground level, the situation is still bad. It is still a culture of, I mean, a theory X, as we know, right? A theory X culture, which is more of a micromanagement, more of a I would say, the close observation of the team members, tracking their every minute, then obviously this will lead to a lot of challenges. I mean, it will just remain on paper. The real fruits and benefits of emotional intelligence won't come out of it.
Mm.
Okay, nice. And anything else you want to share or talk about your broadcast for EQ if you're running it, so that our viewers who are interested, they can definitely connect with you?
Yeah, sure, sure. So definitely, I would say that many of us as change agents are apprehensive that should I really touch upon this topic, or should I really? I mean, when I look at the leadership, when I look at my managers, when I look at the team members around, that should I really? I mean, implement this model, or is it a waste of my time? My 2 cents on that would be that at least give it a try. Okay, it might fail. Again, I'm not guaranteeing that it will succeed everywhere, but definitely there's a lot of learning which will come out of it, which will help you in your future journey as a change agent. So don't just discount this just because you feel, or the feelers what you're getting in a transformation is that it is not going to work, or on day one only I realized that this kind of an model or emotional intelligence will not work in this kind of an organization. My 2 cents will be, try it out. Even if it is a failure, we learn from it and we move ahead. So that's the tip I would like to give to the audience here. And yes, I mean, more than happy to for them to connect with me one on one. I'll be more than happy to talk if they have any specific questions around this.
Nice.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
That has been really great information, Ashutosh. I think our viewers must have got a lot of insight today, and I think we have these emotional intelligence books 2.0 is what readers can like go ahead and look into, read about to understand more, and definitely they can come to you, talk to you, and there's a lot of content out there available on emotional intelligence, and it's one of the thing that people should be like concentrating on along with the other ways of working that we are really working on everywhere across the world right now. So yeah, thank you so much, Ashutosh. This has been really great, and I'm sure you had some fun too.
Yes, definitely. I mean, I was very happy to share my knowledge. And या आणि मी मराठीमध्ये शेवट करीन याचा. मला खूप आनंद झाला हे टॉक शो करताना. So thanks to both of you. Thanks, Sinora. Thanks, Jatin, for giving me this opportunity.
Yeah,
Thank
you're welcome.
you. All right.
Okay, thanks, Ashutosh.
Thank you.
Bye for now.
Thanks. Bye.